Oh, welcome to another episode of The Growth Compass. Shout out to our sponsor, Senders. If you want to do email deliverability correctly, you link. It's in the description. Every episode the same, but without them, it wouldn't be possible to do cool things like talk to Mr. Avi here. No, nobody knows yet, but we go way back, and I'm very excited. We have a lot of common interests. Always saying really interesting things. We're doing kind of a special episode today, a little bit of a lightning round. So before we get into it, if you could give a quick introduction of yourself and what you're currently building.
Yeah, Blake, good to see you. Thanks for the intro. My name is Avi Yashchin. I work with the most talented team, I think, in kind of data science and in behavioral science at Subconscious. And at Subconscious, we are replicating the world's economics, sociology, and psychology experiments for the purposes of building AI that understands why humans act the way they do. We say we're building human-level AI. Everyone else is working on superhuman. Our benchmark is indistinguishable from human. And our goal is to build AI that can do the work of an organization with an understanding of cause and effect.
So, how did you get here? How did we end up here? How did you end up building human level AI?
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
You know, that's our objective. I've been programming since I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, and like back when I was programming, it was like it was like pre-internet. We'll just leave it.
Sure.
We'll just leave it there. And I studied cognitive science in undergrad and did some work with neural networks, and had a computer science and cognitive science degree at Johns Hopkins. And so I've always been fascinated at the intersection of those domains. And then I make a joke. I've been doing AI since AI was called data science, and I've been doing data science since data science was called statistical arbitrage. It's my parents were both scientists, like more brilliant than me. Like my mom was like literally a rocket scientist. My dad was a statistics professor and researcher. And so like as a kid, we grew up talking about statistics and causality and all of that. And it's always fascinated me.
And so is Subconscious AI the first company that you've built?
No. Yeah. So I worked on Wall Street. I was a high frequency trader. That was a lot of fun. But at the end of that experience in 2008, I was working at a place called Lehman Brothers, my first job out of undergrad. And, that company had a little restructuring. The kids wouldn't know about that company, but, it used to exist. And I remember asking my boss, like, why are we trading these things? Why are we buying and selling? The actions we were taking were purely based on momentum. Like we didn't know what the companies manufactured or we didn't know what services they were providing. We didn't know their balance sheet. We had no knowledge of that. It was pure momentum trading. And when you think about why momentum trading happens, which is code for high frequency trading, it happens because a bigger guy is going into a market and you're trying to figure out who the bigger guy is and getting in front of them. And this is effectively a form of front running. And that's the entire business. And it's a huge tax on, society as a whole. So I remember realizing that there are these externalities that are not included in the markets. And so since then, I kind of said, look, let's leave Wall Street aside. This is not like socially defensible. This is not providing any real value to society, despite being quite lucrative and having like nice financial and social dividends. I wanted to do something a little more impactful. And so I started the country's largest green jobs training school. So we taught, I started a vocational school, which ended up getting acquired. I started a data center, which was, carbon neutral when we started, and then became a carbon negative data center, we're using the profits from the trading to actually go and purchase credits.
Yeah.
I worked at a place called Two Sigma, which is this small hedge fund where we were measuring the cost of catastrophe bonds, which is another externality. I started at this business unit at IBM Watson called the education business unit, where we were measuring partially the externalities of early childhood education and secondary and tertiary education. So I've always been in industries where the externalities or non-market costs have been kind of underrepresented. And in my opinion, it's, I have done a little bit of good. That's what I try to do. I think I've done more good than made money, and I've made a little bit of money. So it's nice.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So at what point in the journey? So I think you mentioned it was
That
four
was way too long
main.
an answer.
No. That's exactly what we're looking for. So across those four experiences there, I have two questions about them. The first one being, was this concept or this interest in externalities, not market goods, this type of thing, was this at the forefront when you were doing the vocational school, or was it, or did they come, with your work at Two Sigma when you had to, be more on the research side?
No, it was. It's funny, like being a kid on Wall Street, you like, especially being on a trading desk, you see these big numbers, right? And, you know, there's a bit of a rush to it, right? Seeing a 10 with 9 zeros, and you say, okay, I'm going to now trade a 2 with 9 zeros, right? Like
Yeah.
you could do these things, and the number of zeros eventually kind of doesn't really make a difference. It's all the same exercise. And I was really interested in like, where are the biggest numbers? And you know, there's an exercise in the clean tech world where people talk about infinite loss, right? And so in clean tech, let's go back to like 2008, 2009.
Let's do it.
People were worried about climate change and these like irreversible catastrophes where the only thing that could live on the planet would be like cockroaches and jellyfish, like that type of scenario. So they would say, okay, there's a scenario where that infinite loss happens. And let's say there's a 1% probability of infinite loss. How much should you be willing to invest to avoid a 1% probability of infinite loss? And this is a bit of a brain teaser, a bit of a lotto odds question. But Blake, what do you think?
Oh man, last time you asked me this question, it was not close. So we're saying, how much would you be willing to invest?
Well,
Just
it was a slightly different question.
I know, but I was still pretty off. So are we talking about invest just any type of investment, general investment, or?
Well, I'm saying, yeah, if Blake is in charge of society, and someone comes to you and says, Blake, there's a 1% probability that the planet is destroyed because of the environment, and that would be an infinite loss. How much should we pay to avoid this 1% chance of infinite loss?
Let's say $200 billion.
Well, the right answer is 1% of infinity, which is infinity.
Oh,
If there's a small
almost. I was almost
probability
there.
of infinite loss, you should be willing to pay infinity. Now, this is it's arguable, and there's practical limitations there, but those are the big numbers that were always interesting to me. And so as I got into this, you start realizing that like GDP and the economy is like a very small part of what people value. You know,
So
yeah.
so as far as so my second question about your past experience, because I mean it's tough because I just have so many more theoretical questions about these things that you're posing, because I think they're really cool thought exercises there, and I think they're important to discuss. Um, you know, as far as subconscious AI goes and the work that you're doing today, what impact did these previous experiences have on the way that you're choosing to build this company or choosing to navigate this stage?
I mean, for me, it's always a question of like, what is investment grade? Like, if you're going to be making like a real business decision where you get a kind of real time feedback, what is the quality of the decision? What is the quality of the data? Um, and I've spent a lot of time around junk data, and there's junk data everywhere. Like, between you and me, I think the $300 billion per year spent on big data is almost entirely junk, right? And so some of my experience is like learning like what is valuable data, which can give you some sort of model of the world, that can give you some sort of, predictive or prescriptive capability, and what data is just noise. Um, I spent a lot of time like doing data audits, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time like reducing businesses into financial models with inputs and outputs, and then you have to like get the sense of the quality of the input. I spend a lot of time um, recognizing the quality of signals, right? Like when you're trading, whether it's equities or credit or insurance, whatever it is, you have this very noisy signal. And some of that signal is true signal, but frequently a lot of that signal is noise. Right? How do you separate the signal from noise? When you get alerts from some sort of process, how do you know the alerts are false alarms? It's, getting concepts of type 1 error, type 2 error. So like really getting really high quality data has always been a dream of mine. And I've spent my entire career trying to get clean, good, high quality data that you can make a decision off of. And so now, like, the fact that you can use language models with a well designed experiment to generate really high quality data is
Mm.
life changing. Like, it's really a lot of fun.
So to tie that to how we introduced subconscious AI at the beginning of the call, so y- so you would say and elaborate if I miss anything. So you would say that you are heading towards building human level AI with the intention of that human level AI being able to increase the quality of signals or the quality of data that's available to people making decisions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what's the vision about how it can do that? So are you pairing? I mean, the language on your website says things about like pairing this AI that you guys are building with particular methods of research and things like this. What is the vision for once you guys achieve a level of algorithm that you're happy with, like utilizing it?
Well, I think there's some very powerful use cases. The three big uses of AI today, I would argue, or I should say the three big use cases of language models, to be more specific. Number one, you have these kind of vibe coders, right? And we're finding a lot of these vibe coders really like don't know what to code, right? And so for the first time ever, you're seeing engineers ask for more product managers, but you don't have this AI product manager, right? Which we are building. Or you have AI marketers, and it's very easy to generate a large amount of marketing content, but you don't know what type of marketing content will resonate with an individual. And so we can simulate that. So we can build that marketing plan for the marketers. Or you have AI SDRs, right? AI salespeople. Those are probably the three big use cases. But those salespeople really don't know how to price, or which subsegment would respond well to that product, right? And so we can perform that. And so by understanding humans really well and understanding why individuals will, you know, become aware of a product, or try a product or buy a product, we can really inform AI marketing, AI SDRs, and AI product managers. And so we hope if we crack this, then you know, then operating a business will become quite a bit easier.
Hmm. And so, what would you describe? What would you describe as the biggest hurdle that you are experiencing at the moment with subconscious AI?
If you asked me a year ago, I would say getting marketers and getting the market to really trust synthetic data and AI generated data. That was a real education. Now I think the market has really shifted. So people believe it's possible, but now the question is, how do you separate the quality of one synthetic respondent versus another? Anyone can go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, ChatGPT,
Yeah.
answer this survey like you're Blake." Okay, sure, and that will get you some degree of success. But to simulate all of Blake's hidden motivations or attitudes or behaviors, and then to ask that synthetic Blake um, a randomized, controlled, blinded study. So it's not just, "Hey, Blake, what do you think about this toothbrush?" It's, "Blake, which of these two toothbrushes do you like?" And by doing that enough times, you can understand why the synthetic Blake prefers this certain feature of the certain toothbrush. Is a very different story. And so now we went from educating people on synthetic data to now we're educating people on experimental design and
Hmm.
causality. And so it's a different education, but it's a lot of fun.
So as we close on this lightning round, I have two more questions for you. The first one is just to try and for me conceptually, tie a knot on a couple of the themes. So how does what you just described, which thank you for covering all of those bases. Also, so how is what you just described as far as the vision with Subconscious AI relate to the concept of externalities and things that are not, this thing that you said has been driving you for the last several years. Does it come with running a business better, or something, some other derivative?
Beautiful. I mean, right now, one of the most difficult things I did in my career was try to measure externalities. I was working at this other fund called Engine Number One, and we were trying to measure, like, does the environment component of a stock cause it to go up? Does the social benefits? Does the governance? Like, what are the we were measuring ESG mostly, but we were trying to understand those externalities and costing those externalities, and that really didn't exist. You would get all this ESG data, but, like, what did it mean that this chemical would cause some sort of injury? What did it mean that that this organization was governed in an ethical, non-biased way? Right? How do you value that? How do you put a dollar amount on it? And there's really no way to do that with markets. And the same problem happens in running society. Like, how do you know if your citizens want another fire department or another town pool? How do you know if
Mm.
they want, better health care or more teachers per student? Right? Like, these are all kind of non-market goods. These are all externalities that don't have markets and don't have prices, and therefore you can't really weigh it. Um, we've done some experiments with, like, I was involved in some projects where direct democracy kind of tries to solve that. In Northern Europe, this question of how to deploy resources is solved by running these randomized, controlled, blinded experiments, running
Mm.
these conjoint studies, these discrete choice experiments on the actual population. Like, "Hey, population, would you prefer, this sustainability tax, or would you prefer this, better healthcare service?" And by performing those experiments, you can get a view on what your citizens, how your citizens want to deploy that capital when there
I
are no
see.
markets. And that's very expensive. It costs millions of dollars. It takes months and months and years of time in some cases. And so we can actually run those simulations now, uh, and start to give people this sense of what people care about, measuring the externalities without markets.
Wonderful. Tied it together. That was perfect. I have a last question for you very quickly because I know we got a hard stop here. Is out of all of these things, what inspires you?
Mm. I would say like people smarter than me inspire me. People more ambitious than me. My team inspires me. Like I don't know, the markets inspire me. Like podcasts inspire me. I try to. I find that the more things I let inspire me, the more room I have to feel inspired.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. No, well, thank you for your time. Thank you for those pieces. I love always expanding. The universe is always expanding. So why can't we have like sources of inspiration always expanding? If someone else was inspired to either get in touch or follow your journey, just like I am, what's the best way to do so?
Join our Discord. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on the socials. I'm Googleable.
Sweet, do it, Avi. Thank you. Looking forward to the next one. It's gonna be much longer. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Blake.
You got
Appreciate
it.
it. Have fun.